But with the guests that are actually joining us today, I mean, we're going to be asking questions throughout the, the lineup, whoever has the question. But William Bell, of course, is going to be our first. We've got the man himself, Alan Danlinger, and of course, John Dugan at the end. A little late, but thank you for showing up.
I was a minute early.
Hey, we were too early, that's what it was. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, me growing up, I didn't watch the film until the mid-'80s, of course. Like many that saw it when it first came out, I thought it was real. I thought it was a documentary. I thought that people in Texas were actually eating each other, which they probably are. We just haven't seen it.
People were asking questions.
No, yeah, but yeah, I was a fan of horror growing up. I mean, like many, of course, my parents weren't kin to me actually watching these movies, so I used to sneak out and watch them with my older siblings. But being that it is, it is a privilege. It is an honor for me to be standing here before everybody and you gentlemen, of course. So many parts of this movie that made it great. I mean, when it came to the cinema, as far as the camera angles, of course, the linings, the music, but of course also these three gentlemen. Everybody had a part in this film. Everybody killed it, and some got killed. But that's kind of what I'm interested in, because of course back then, I mean, this movie influenced many others after. So my first question is, what was it that you had to look up to play those parts that you did? Because of course a lot of them, playing grandpa, I mean, that's one of them, having to actually play a part that you're not comfortable with. But you don't mind me asking you, what was it that you looked up to? We didn't have internet back then, right? So was it books, was it TV?
No, none of the above. Really, it was a feeling of just being in the moment. There wasn't anything really to look up. I was in the drama department at UT, and so I had some acting background. I had done a lot of plays and some film work with the RTF department there. And I came at it more just from, it was another character in a script, and I had to break that down. And also Pam, or Terry, and I talked a lot about our relationship and what we were doing, what had happened before that day.
All you do is talk about it.
A little research.
Method acting.
Exactly. It has to come from somewhere, right? So anyway, we had a lot of fun together. But it was basically just a normal script, break it down, figure it out, and then do it.
Now, of course, I mean, being that it was influenced by Ed Gein, of course, serial killer. It wasn't a true story, but I mean, you guys had to basically create it. So, did you bring your own character into the film? When they gave you the part, were you kind of like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna give it your own little twist?
Well, yes, of course. But mainly, I kept going up to Toby and asking him, like, I went in the theater with the theater director, well, what's my motivation here to walk through the door? Why am I sitting down at this moment? Or why am I doing this? And how should I be doing it? And Toby just kept saying, be yourself. Just be yourself. And it would just drive me crazy. It's like, that's not why I became an actor, to be myself. But the point was, he didn't want us acting, He wanted it to have that realistic feel to it, and it does.
Yeah.
Because people were so good at their job. And see, this is the weird part. If you're really good at your job, you don't look like you're doing anything.
Yes.
See, so that was the goal. Don't do anything and do everything at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, my last question before I move on, we're going to be coming back. Now that actors actually look at you for influence back then, I mean, have you thought about that? Has it hit you, or have other actors contacted you and asking you, hey?
Yeah, I can't. I wish I could think of the actor's name, but when I find it.
Was it
No, it wasn't De Niro. From another horror movie, and I met him, and he met me. He said, I have to thank you, because when I saw you do Chainsaw, I went, God, anybody can do that, I'll do it. So it was kind of a backhanded compliment.
Oh, yeah?
If you can do it, anybody can.
No,
Is
definitely.
his movie still famous 50 years later?
No, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
there you go, there you go. It didn't make it. Now, of course, moving on, of course, Alan, this bit with you earlier today, when it comes to the film itself, because you actually have, as far as your IMDb, you actually had a film prior. So when you jumped into this project yourself, I mean, did you kind of bring that character with you?
Well, the truth is, I wasn't an actor, and if you see some of the reviews of the movie, you'll realize. In fact, James Janice, I think I mentioned, he does a review of our movie. It's called Kill Count, 1974, and he referred to me as this 30-year-old disco stew-looking dude. I didn't know what the heck he was talking about.
You're sure it's his laugh?
Yeah, and he was referring to The Simpsons.
Yeah.
You know, the disco dude guy. But I met Sally Richardson, who was the assistant director on Chainsaw, but was involved when he did his first movie. Was called Eggshells, and it was a movie. It was like a hippy dippy psychedelic movie, and about this couple named David and Amy, and they were doing volunteer work. I was also doing social work, and so they asked if they could come to my house and shoot a scene. At the time I was married, my son is in, he's like 8 months old. And they liked that scene and they thought I was funny. And so they kept adding, more scenes for me to do. And then the movie comes out, nobody saw the movie. And again, it got into legal trouble. And so 4 years later, I get a call, I don't even remember, it's so long ago, I don't remember if it was Toby or Kim. And so we wrote this movie, it's called, I think the working title was Leatherface or Head Cheese.
Head cheese.
And-
Mine said head cheese.
Head Cheese. And they said, we want you to play this part of Jerry, which basically was me, it wasn't a stretch, And so I went home, I read it in like an hour and a half, I was engrossed with the script, and I said, I'll do it, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Ancient
Listen to him now.
He should know something about it.
He doesn't need the makeup now. He's grown nicely.
He's grown into it.
There you go. He's actually in character now, so that's good. Good for him, man. No, but of course, when it comes to the character, I mean, you mentioned, it's been years since you've actually picked up a hitchhiker. I mean,
Yeah, I swore I would, and then a couple of weeks ago in Central Park, we were at MoMA. I did it again, I picked up Ed Neal on a horse and carriage ride. But it
Did
was a
you
lot of
learn
fun
the
this
first
time.
time?
Huh?
Not learn the first.
I didn't learn it.
and of course, because it was a movie. I mean, it was a storyline.
It was?
From what I heard, it might have been a documentary. I'm not sure, but of course, I mean, did that really stick with you though? I mean, after the film, when you watched it, were you like, okay, you know what? Were you kind of worried of hitchhikers?
Yeah, I did pick up hitchhikers, and then I made the mistake of taking my son, who was 5, just to see the coming attraction. That's 50 years ago. He's still in weekly intensive therapy.
There you go.
And
This
of
is
course,
an English-speaking audience, right?
little bit.
Semi.
All right.
And of course, and not to fast forward, but I mean, of course, you are actually working on the project now. Can you tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
I produced and I have a starring role as a sheriff in the movie called The Weed Hacker Massacre.
Yes.
And hopefully it's in post-production, and we're gonna see a rough cut of it next month, and hopefully go into festivals, and it's got my name on it, so I'm hoping it's good, because I don't wanna go into the witness protection.
And of course, I mean, you guys make sure you follow them. I mean, they are on Facebook and Instagram. When they're done, just go ahead and plug them in and follow them on, that support. Of course, I'm gonna go to, last but not least, of course.
The icon himself.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Doan Dugan, my man, once again, character. I mean, you got to play a 100-plus-year-old cannibalistic grandpa, so what was it that you were going through? What did you read? What did you see? What did you eat?
Well, I had a grandpa. I knew the old people and everything. So I had no words, and there wasn't a lot to indicate what kind of guy I was, And him and I were talking, and he said, this guy is so old that he's embryonic. He's, you know, he says, you know how old people, real old people they start turning into children again, you know, almost. And I said, yeah. He goes, have you ever seen a baby nurse on his mother? I said, oh yeah, my sister has, you know, 3 kids, of course. And he goes, you know the thing they do when they get excited when the milk starts coming? I said, I know exactly what you're talking about. And that was really the only character direction that I had on that film. Toby never said a word to me about anything.
Do you remember that scene? When they actually cut Marilyn's
Oh,
finger?
yes.
And he dug it too. Right? He sucked it really good.
Oh, yeah. Suck it real good. Yeah, I suck it good.
Now, of course.
50 years of this one, something.
This is R-rated, right?
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, Dugan, as far as, you were brought back to the film, this was for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1994, The Next Generation. You actually came back as a cop, so I mean.
Yeah,
when
I
you
was
were
a
brought
cop.
back-
I had, my one scene was with Renee Zellweger, before she was Renee
Renee
Zellweger. And Matthew McConaughey's in it. You know how many Oscar winners have come out of our franchise?
Right.
We got Renee, Viggo Mortensen, Macaulay, or whatever his name.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey, okay. I'm Irish, I should remember that. Matthew McConaughey and, well, Ron Bozeman, our producer, he was our production manager. He won the Academy Award for producing Silence of the Lambs.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
So
they're
a lot
not-
of talent has come out of our, you know, out of our franchise.
Now, last question as far as your work, because once again, they brought you back 2013. You got to play Grandpa Sawyer, of course. So
Yeah.
with this time, as much experience that you had, I mean, were you still thinking, okay, the baby that, you know, is going after his milk, or did you have actually experience?
No, I didn't do a whole lot of that though. I got blown out of my chair, you know, by a shotgun or something. But, no, there was, just sit there, you know,
Oh, yeah.
just sit. I'll say, the guy who
Is it
squibbed me,
liberating?
is that my phone doing
Was that your
that?
pacemaker? Oh, it's yours.
It's going out, it's going out.
My penis pump.
Yours too?
What the hell was I talking about?
It doesn't matter.
So I'm bleeding. This happens all the time.
It's a problem, it's a problem.
Is there a nurse? Is
Blood,
there a
man.
nurse in that?
There you go.
There you go.
There you go. Classic.
So I actually got squibbed. I got to get shot. You know, which it's like the first time I got to ride a horse in a movie. You know, every boy wants to. You know, I played a Confederate colonel or some major or some shit. You know, got to ride a horse, but you know. Now I can't remember what I was talking about. Oh, yeah, squib.
Squibs, yeah.
And he was like a Brit, I think. And he goes, don't worry now. It's just a wee tap. It's just jump, and he'd go, you know, like that. Just a wee tap. And then we're going to yank you out of your chair. I said, well, all right. And he kept saying, just a wee tap, and he was strapping me all up and all that stuff. So they got the squib here, blood bag goes over the squib. And so came time to shoot that part of the scene. And that's some bitch's squib went off. It's not a wee tap. And it dawned on me, he told me that, so I wasn't anticipating.
Right.
So he can get, so they can get an honest reaction out of me. You know? And then they have to yank me out of my chair because I kicked out one foot so hard that I almost went over. But, yeah, I don't remember what's her
Now, I was gonna say, I think you might have gotten typecast. You do a lot of sitting in your movies, man. So maybe that was part of their, what they wanted you for. But a lot of good experience. So I mean, of course, I have watched a lot of the films that you guys were in after. With one, William, there was a couple of Western movies that you actually got to participate in. I believe it was Buffalo Soldiers was one of them. I grew up watching horror, kung fu theater, of course, back in, with my dad. Western, we used to watch a lot of Westerns as well. Do you think it's time for another good Western to come out?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
a good Western.
There you go, because I know I haven't seen one in a while. Like I said, I am a fan. So let me ask you, with that being said, is there anybody, when it came to playing the Western, an actor, a character, did you look towards influence for any of those?
That I was looking for. Oh, boy. This is an older Alan Ladd. Somebody here must have seen Shane
Come back.
some
Shane.
point. Shane's one of my great favorite movies ever. And he doesn't play like a heavy duty Western guy, but he's awfully good. A great hero.
And he's short like you.
Yes, he is. Short like all of them.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
You guys have shrunk down to my size.
They used to have to give him an apple box to stand on the
Yeah.
knees with other people.
Or they would dig a little
Train.
The train, yeah.
Yeah, for the leading ladies.
And this is because I want to know. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that does happen when it comes to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Is there something behind the scenes that happened while you were actually there, maybe that didn't make the cut? You can tell
Well,
us?
yeah, one of our favorite stories, when we drive into the gas station, Jim Seadow's supposed to come out and the boy to wipe the windows down.
The troll.
The troll. Robert.
Robert, yeah.
What was his, I don't know his last name now. But anyway, good friend of Maryland's. Anyway, and he came out and he had a big rag and a bucket full of soapy water.
Dirty soap.
And he was supposed to pick it up and start, wiping down the windshield. That's kind of a gag, right? And
Well.
what happened was, he got it the first time and threw it at the windshield, and it ricocheted off the windshield and hit Jim Seadow right in the face. So it's just water and soap and right in the middle of his speech. And it was so out of context, and we were like trying to keep it together, because we were doing like 1 or 2 takes. We didn't have a lot of time or money. So you had to keep your act together. But Alan and I saw this and thought it was probably the funniest thing we'd ever seen in our lives.
We didn't get out much
And
then.
we started laughing, and we couldn't stop. And we kind of brought it back together. Okay, take 2, get ready for take 2. And we kind of got it together. And as soon as we saw the troll approaching the van, we'd lose it again. Wah, 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 wah. And the more we did it, the more angry Toby got. And the more angry he got, the funnier we thought the whole thing. And finally, he just, when he woke up, out of here, get the fucking shit. And let Kim Hinkle finish directing the scene, because he got so mad at us for being amateurs.
The only difference in terms of how we remembered, I thought I had hit the windshield wiper by mistake.
Oh.
And that splashed
Well,
all that.
Oh, I
that
thought
dirty
it
wood.
just ricocheted
No, it
off
was
the-
just, I inadvertently hit the windshield wiper.
Oh.
And he's trying to deliver this soliloquy, with this.
About the gas truck
We got
isn't
no
coming back
gas.
till
Get
later.
the hell outta here.
Oh, yeah. it was-
Pretty funny scene, but you don't.
You don't see any
Why
of
was that
it.
not in the blue?
I think it is, but it misses the soapy water going, It does.
Probably the most fun we had on set,
Oh,
yeah.
the whole time. The silliest moment.
Pretty rough shoot.
Now, of course, when it takes to making a film, like you said, and a lot of actors, even from the '80s films that I've been interviewing, a lot of them say that the takes were short. It was just like 1 and 2, like 1 and done. Like there was no retakes. Budget, of course, so they had to. Was there ever during the movie, because of course, even now, like Texas, yesterday, the day before, we were like at 108, 107. Was there ever a time where you guys were filming that you had to, like, okay, you know what, the weather's bad, the weather's too hot?
We had to shut down for a few weeks.
Yeah,
to
but
get
that
more
was
money.
financial reasons, not weather reasons.
No, it wasn't, yeah, it wasn't weather, it was.
Well, if you
Go
think
out
it's
in the
hot,
drought.
picture being in this 1972 van,
Oh, yeah.
no AC, the windows up, Toby smoking a cigar, there's sound people, lights, I mean, it was brutal. It
And
was
6
brutal.
of us in the van, plus the 3 other technicians. So it was warm and stinky, you know? And we were in there for days.
They got it right.
Yes.
Oh, we were all right.
And Leatherface, because he wore that costume for like, I mean, you didn't want to get within a mile of this guy.
Yeah.
I have never smelled BO.
It was
Ever.
It was beyond BO.
It was like Martian BO or some kind. So, I've never smelled anything like that in my life.
Well, that was the other thing,
Well,
we didn't
he
have
had
but
to
one
live with it. He
costume,
had it on his own
Oh,
body.
yeah.
you know?
Well,
That was
they
it, you
wouldn't,
have to take care of it.
the shirt that he wore was hand dyed with lit dye in the makeup woman's kitchen sink, essentially. And she was afraid to wash. They didn't want it washed because they were afraid it wouldn't match. Because of that.
Continuity.
Yeah, so we had to wear that same shirt that whole.
6 weeks.
What about you and the makeup
Oh,
and the
man,
heat?
that's gross.
How was that for you?
Well, it sucked.
Really?
So, as we say in Indiana, it sucked donkey dick in hell.
You say the sweetest thing. Man.
But, yeah, it was terrible. Yeah, you know, people think it's a
Oh,
mask
yeah.
and I could take it off. I don't.
Yeah.
Latex makeup. Glued to your face with spirit gum.
Yeah.
And you're in it for the day.
Oh,
It's 100-degree heat.
And I was in it for, the second day I shot, I was in it for over 24 hours. Which, I can't believe I survived it. I couldn't do that now. I'm an old man. I'd drop dead, you know.
Well, now you wouldn't need as much.
We know.
You
Change the
know,
lighting, you'll be good. And of course, and before I forget, because I was told that somebody actually has that van.
I do. Well, what I have is, I have a replica, or I call it tribute van, that the original van was a 72, what I have is a 74. So it's the same year that the movie came out. But I found it on a website in North Dakota, and it belonged to a fellow by the name of Scott Key, who turns out to be the great nephew of
Francis Scott Key?
who wrote the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, wow.
And it'd been up on blocks for like 30 years, and people had called, and when I found out, I said, well, I gotta get it, I'm the OG. And we worked out, and he trailered it down to Austin. And then I took it to my mechanic who restored it and did the inside, and now I've got the band, I've got Franklin in the band. And I have an animatronic Leatherface, so we have a road show ready to go.
Where's the original though? Anybody?
He sold it and
Okay.
it got T-boned or something.
It was the sound mixer, Ted Nicolau. It was
Yeah, it was
his
Ted's,
van.
it was Ted's van.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and they just said, you know, take the seats out and we'll
Yeah.
rent it from you. I don't know if they even paid him or not.
Probably not.
Probably not. I would have invoiced the shit out of them.
Now, the funny part of it is that we both, all of us got more money for not being in the movie than we got for being in the movie. Because the 3D movie, the Netflix movie,
Yes.
you know, where they just show us a Polaroid, we got more money for not being in the movie than we got for being in the movie.
That's where I got
Don't
that.
figure that out.
That's where I got that 68-cent check from.
Yeah. The real massacre took place after the movie. Because the original distributors, as you know, was the Mafia.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah,
don't
one of them
play.
ended up.
They don't play.
One of them ended up in the East River at cement overshoots, you know what I mean? Because they had like bad guy
Personified,
investors
yeah.
with them. And so when that thing hit big, those guys went, you know, come with an empty briefcase to the guys and say, give me my cash, you know? Well,
I mean, this movie was making money hand over fist. And then we got a check for $1.50. You know, that's what's wrong with this picture.
Yeah, that's, yeah. sorry.
But in the end, 50 years later, y'all are with us, and we're still loving what you did.
I can make more money in like 2 hours signing autographs than I made you that whole movie.
Here it is.
So-
Here it is.
You people are keeping us alive. Thank you for being fans. Thank
Yeah,
you.
and if it wasn't for this weekend, we'd be,
Thank you.
you know, applying for food stamps on
Well, I'm using my food stamp money.
Thank you.
And of course, Alan, I gotta ask you, there was a film, it was actually a Cannibal Comedian, that we had talked about it.
Yeah, I did a voiceover for a movie called Cannibal Comedian, which is about a cannibal that goes into stand-up when he's not killing and eating people. So,
Definitely watch it.
it's a somewhat funny movie.
I have not seen that.
It'll be by now.
Oh, it's not been released yet?
Just about.
Oh, oh, wow.
And it won a hubby by Joe Bob Briggs.
Hmm.
You know, he gave it an award, so keep an eye out for it.
Now, when it comes to movies, I mean, even actors, like I mentioned earlier, I've interviewed, a lot of them, I always ask them, like, you know what, I mean, what were you thinking when that movie was filmed? I mean, were you thinking it was gonna be a hit? A lot of them come back and say, you know what, we were just getting paid, like it was just whatever roles were coming out.
That's a great question. In fact, a story I've told is that Toby actually asked me to come in and look at some of the rushes of the movie, and after I saw it, he said, how do you think I can improve the movie? And I said, have the seats facing away from the screen. He didn't like that. He never called me back.
Is that what he-
tells you what I do? You know, that this movie turned out to be, as Quentin Tarantino says, a perfect movie. So, I'm not a critic. True story.
50 years later, you still crack me up.
Now, of course, I mean,
He's
when it comes
goofing on you.
to the film, sorry?
Goofing on me.
When it comes to the film, because when was the first time that you guys actually got to see it, and we'll go down the line? I mean, the first time they were like, you know what, we're gonna premiere, you went to go see it, I mean, what was your reaction watching the?
I didn't get any kind of premiere. Toby, I was living in New York. After I did this movie, I went up there to do theater. And Toby came up to do final color corrections that they do on the film, especially when you used to shoot on film. Just to make sure the red is the right red, and the blue of the sky is the right blue, and all these different colors. And so he invited me and the lady I lived with at the time, and another young lady, and we all went to I don't know, probably Kodak screening room. So it wasn't much bigger than this room, with the four of us sitting there watching this movie up on the screen. That was the first time I saw it. And when it was done, I could not say a thing. I was dumbfounded. I was expecting it to be like Jaws with a chainsaw. And it wasn't. It's not that movie. And I really did not know what to make of it. And of course, I'm sitting there, of course, looking mostly at myself and being very disappointed in what I did. Thinking I could have done that better.
I have a
could
hard
done
time
that
watching
better.
myself.
I could have done that, but why didn't I think, blah, 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 blah. So I kind of got a little caught up in actor stuff, you know. But the whole movie, I was just thought, God, this is like a bad nightmare. It's what, no, it's
And that's
what
what
it
it's
looked.
supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's what it really is supposed to be, from beginning to end, from night to the next morning. So, in that respect, it did what he wanted me to do. At the time, it wasn't what I wanted it to be.
No, yeah, and I'm sure none of y'all had an idea as far as what the final piece was gonna be. But moving on, I mean, as far as yourself, I mean, the first time you actually saw the film.
Well, I went to just see the coming attractions to make sure I was in the movie. And, and I went to, it was the Village Cinemas, now the Alamo Draft House.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I just snuck in to just see the trailer. And as soon as I saw myself, I just ran out of the theater screaming. I was so freaked out. And,
Did you do that girly scream like you did?
yes, I did. A little respect. Actually, that's
When you see his Leatherface.
and that's the truth. I did not see him until I got killed, because I just had them blindfold me, and I
They
sat
wanted the
outside.
genuine reaction.
So I was worked up into a lather, and when I go in and see the hook and the, you know, the freezer and whatnot, and Leatherface comes in, I went tearing out of there, and Toby yelled, "Cut!" Came over, put his arm around me, said, "Oh, that's a great screen, but you gotta wait for him to come into the frame." So they did it several times, I was still freaked out, and a couple of guys grabbed me by the lapels of my belt loop and pulled me down, just as I was taking that shot.
Because that was the first time you laid eyes.
Yeah, I hadn't seen him.
Interesting.
He kept him away from us.
Yeah, it just worked out
Yes,
that way. And,
yeah.
and after the movie was over, Gunnar and I became good friends, and he stayed with me for the summer before he moved to Maine.
Okay.
And he was a really bright guy, intelligent,
Nice.
gentle giant.
Yeah.
A sweetheart. So we had great times. And it turns out that Paul Partain, who plays Franklin, who we hated throughout the movie, and he also turned out to be the nicest guy.
Oh, yeah. He was the first guy, Paul was the first guy I met on set the morning I got there. And, he was sitting all alone. Everybody hated him. I had just gotten off an overnight, red eye from Chicago. And, Kim picked me up at the airport. He goes, do you wanna go home, get some sleep? Go to your place and get some sleep, or you wanna go on set? They're starting right now, like 6 a.m. I said, no, I wanna go out to location. Paul drove this huge Cadillac convertible with the big fins, And I always say, if you were riding a bicycle behind us, the guy brake checked you, you just, you're dead,
Okay.
The fins were like, it was red interior, top down, trunk open, a cooler full of tall boy Budweiser's, Coca-Cola, and Dr. Pepper. And he was sitting, he had created a little conversation circle, semicircle, around his wheelchair. And he was just sitting there, and nobody was sitting in the other chair. They're all sitting on equipment cases over there and over there. And he says, I told him going with it, he was, "Stop over here, partner, grab yourself something to drink, And when I thought, beer. 6 in the morning, I've been up all night, what the fuck? And we became fast friends, and he was a marvelous actor.
Speaking of Franklin, if I can ask, forgive me if I'm the only one that doesn't know the answer to this, but that guy, was he really in a wheelchair, or was that his part?
Oh, no.
There's an actor.
He was walking,
And
talking
the-
back.
Okay, so his character was handicapped, not him.
Right.
Thank you. I always wondered.
But the reason we found him so obnoxious was because he stayed in character. the whole
Yeah, he never
time.
broke character.
Oh, gotcha.
Out of character, nicest guy, but in character, and he stayed
Whiny,
in.
yeah.
He took the keys.
Did Marilyn hate him?
Oh, yeah, hell yeah.
Everybody hated him.
He's doing his job.
And of
I
course,
was into it.
we're gonna jump on, and if anybody has a question, I mean, we can start from the front row and just work down, but, did you guys have a question you wanna ask?
Have we answered all the questions?
Not yet.
Of course.
Leave it to him.
Thank you, appreciate. OnlyFans.
Yes, sir.
One for one, I'm wondering, what we see on the screen where he slams the door, pulls you in there and slams the door, it looks simple. Was that one take? Cause it looks like there could have been a lot of problems with that, the door gets stuck. Did you not make the threshold for you to go in?
That, just the technical act of closing the door worked the first time. But the thing was, we choreographed the whole thing.
Okay.
It was really the only time that Toby and I collaborated in the whole movie.
Interesting.
I finally went up and Toby had an idea and he said, okay, do this, you're dead. There's an old saying, no good actor dies quickly, right? If you're going down, let's stretch it out as long as possible.
Suck it up, baby.
And
So-
then with the feet twitching and all that?
With all of that, so we went in, choreographed, I said, no, if he's gonna hit me like this, then I would flip in the air, and then Toby, and then your feet go like this, and then blah, 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 and I had to put blood in my mouth, so when he hit me, I could spit the blood out as it was coming. Some of this you don't see, but we saw it in the room, and it really affected people, I had to really, it's my favorite thing that I do.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it's you, buddy, I mean, that's.
Yeah, well, and Gunner, I mean, it was the first time I had seen Gunner dressed as Leatherface. And it was his first scene, and he was pumped. And he's a big guy,
Yeah.
too.
Hello.
The hammer was
Scared the
made
shit
out
out
of
of
foam rubber, but he hit me so hard it broke all the blood vessels in this left eye. Right? And then he picked me up, and they had made the room smaller, right, behind the door, and picks me up and threw me like a rag doll into the side of the staircase. And I was just crumpled down to, as small as possible.
There weren't stuntmen back then?
No stuff. No, not on this movie, not on this
There was no
movie.
such thing as a
You
stunt
didn't have to
double.
worry about makeup.
Well, no, actually, Mary Church,
Oh, yeah, Mary
Church doubled,
Maryland
Maryland,
jumped
yeah,
out the
yeah.
window, that's
Yeah.
true.
Marilyn jumped through the window, that's Mary.
That's the only stunt.
No, we did all of our own
Yeah.
stuff. Terry got put up on the meat hook.
Yeah.
Terry in the freezer, that was all her, all that stuff, we did our own. Me laying on the table getting chopped up into kielbasa. That was-
I still remember, I think it was you, we had met, and it was a live chainsaw, and it was this damn close to your face, and you couldn't see through the freaking mask.
No. I didn't learn that till later. He couldn't see where my head was to where the chainsaw was. And
Well,
I
they
could
took
feel.
the teeth off, right?
Yeah, they did take the teeth off,
No,
but the
no,
blade.
chains weren't off, it was just a regular
You felt the
bicycle
wind?
chain with no blades
Yeah,
on it.
exactly.
Yeah.
But I could feel the hot oil and the splinters coming out of the table. It was that close.
Wow.
They wanted you to twitch.
No, they didn't want, at that point, they had Dottie Pearl at the end of the table. And Toby said, make sure he does not breathe or move in this whole scene. And so,
Turned out to be like-
Some of the-
Keep you safe.
some of the best acting I did.
Anybody else have any questions? A question?
How was the scene with Grandpa at the end when they watch his wax?
How did it look?
Yeah, how was it getting into that?
Doing, was a blast. Here I was, 20 years old, sucking on this beautiful babe's finger with like her kiss in front of me. So it wasn't difficult at all.
That scream she lets out was really,
Marilyn was great.
yeah, that was a really.
From
Oh,
beginning to
God.
end.
The
an
eyes,
actress.
yeah, that's what
He
we.
beat the shit out of her in that movie.
She was never the same.
I'm gonna ask one last question on my part. After the film, I mean, we had talked about hitchhikers. Did any of you guys go vegan after this movie? Did you guys eat chili right after?
I love barbecue.
There you go.
Yeah,
Nice.
still, always.
I have a question for all you three. Coming from me, it's gonna make perfect sense. I'm sure I'm not the only one that would be interested to hear. If y'all each individually could go back and tell us if what you recall from the first time you did an event where you got to meet us. What was the first time like, the first time you got to meet your
Oh.
fans? Like
Well,
this,
well,
you
for
know,
me,
first-
it was 2004, I think, at Cinema Wasteland.
So you had never done it?
No, and Gunnar asked me, he said they want to do a reunion, are you interested in doing it? And I said, gee, I don't know, when am I gonna be meeting serial killers, right? Wannabes at least. And as it turned out, these were the nicest folks, they're like you. They were just lovely, they were wonderful, they just saw us as fresh meat. You know? But it was great, it was a great experience, and it's always been that way, every time. And then just about the meat thing, I have my own line of Chainsaw Jerry's Killer Beef Jerky.
Yes.
And on the blade, it says, "We were the meats."
Nice.
I'm out of it right now, but we're getting.
I know, I'm so sad. I'll see you in a
I'll have it, I'll have it.
No?
24 years ago, Louisville, Kentucky, where I lived at the time. And my next door neighbor, there was a thing in the Sunday Courier Journal about this water condor. I didn't even know anything about it. And so I was in my late 40s at the time. And she knew that I'd been in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and there was a phone number to call for information, tickets and stuff. She called and said, "You realize Grandpa lives next door to me?" You know. Next I got a phone call is after that, I'm doing a morning radio show, you know, and I've been on the road since then.
And what was it the first time that you met us face to face, you know, at a show for you? Was it like, you all remember me, or was it, hey, how you doing?
No, I remember you.
Drugs will do
Yeah,
that.
kind of hard to forget.
And he's tried.
As we all have.
This is the guy that lights up a room by leaving it.
Great therapy. How
How
about you, William?
Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I don't remember the name of the con.
No, what's that one?
How long ago?
Monster Mania.
No, he's right, I think it's Cherry Hill.
Cherry Hill was
Yeah,
Monster
That's
Mania.
where, that's where it was.
In New Jersey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, my brother came down and played the piano.
Right, my brother came
remember?
down, yeah.
Yes, and, yeah, anyway, God, that was a long time ago.
About
Oh,
20 years
man.
ago?
At least.
Wow,
I
okay.
think it was around 2007.
How
It
is
wasn't,
Bill's
it was a few years
family's
after
reaction
we
to you
did
guys
Cinema
being in
Wasteland.
a serial killer?
Oh, okay.
It was, yeah.
And I hadn't done them
Ever.
ever. And Terry and I hadn't done them for one reason or the other. And Gunnar kept saying, "You really should come. This is like a great gig."
Mhm.
I went, okay. Finally, I don't know, needed the money or something. And they talked me into coming. And it was like a major revelation. The fans.
That's the way Terry told me too. She said,
It would just blew me away.
I don't think any of us had any idea how popular we were.
Yeah.
You know.
And how appreciative the fans are, and how respectful, and how sweet, and how, that's great, a great experience, and so.
Terry, that's how Terry told me, because she said the Gunner got you and her in it. And as a fan, it's always interesting to hear how you don't know it exists, and to see you walk into it and realize it does exist.
Yes, I hope.
At the Cinema Wasteland, it was standing room only.
Kind of like here, but
Well, not quite.
A little bit bigger.
Yeah.
In fact, at the last one, they told me that I got a standing ovation when I got killed. I didn't have a take back. They were happy. I don't know.
Terry got a walking ovation. The moment I saw it the first time at the Chicago Theater on State Street, Chicago, Illinois, and we had, I invited all my friends from the theater to come and for opening night and all that stuff. And there were a bunch of my friends. I think there were 16 or 17 of us in the group. And when Terry gets hung on that meat hook and she starts doing this, I'd say about 20 people got up and walked out. So I told her she got a walking ovation.
I want to thank everybody for staying as long as you have to see this, and I hope we pass the audition.
There you go. And you know, it's all about you. It's all about you.
Wow.
You're
Y'all
keeping
make
us
it
alive, keeping us young. Well, kind of. Not keeping him young, but I feel like a teenager.
We're gonna get one last one.
Actually, you know what, can I ask a question?
Oh, sure.
You brought up the Mafia Ties earlier. Have any of you cats read the Joe Bob piece that he did for Texas Monthly on this movie?
Recent? Is it recent?
No, I think it's from like maybe the early aughts, but it's like a 69-page, just like massive breakdown. I don't know if you've ever read it or not.
No, I have not seen it.
I have a copy of it, man.
How do
It's
we get
amazing. I can email it to you.
Okay.
Yeah, dude, it's dope.
Did you talk about the mafia thing?
Oh yeah, very deeply. They were also connected to like deep throat.
It's in Texas Monthly?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's really illuminating, because like I find this movie kind of like high art. It's not really a genre picture, you know. Very beautifully shot and et cetera. But his explication of that film is incredible.
It's too bad that another person that would be really an excellent would be Daniel Pearl, who shot the movie.
Yes.
And he has so
Sky
much,
and all
so
of that.
much information and.
Oh, yeah, he
wonderful
can
stuff.
tell you how he
Yeah.
got the look and the whole thing.
Maybe on our next go around, if there is, I can bring the van, bring in Daniel Pearl and
I just hope you
make it
guys can appreciate
spectacular.
that it's
Ooh,
like
that
a
would be
massive,
great.
just like a movie, not just like a horror movie, but it's like, it's very beautifully done, you're all perfect in it in every way, like.
Yeah.
You know, the American Film Institute, says it's one of the best 100 best 100 American films of all time.
And Quentin Tarantino said it's a perfect movie.
And, you know, I guess like
And they only paid
Hooper's,
you
$1.50. What we got paid for it, he said $1.50.
Yes, yes.
The initial.
And, you got a question?
So, just because you had mentioned your brother talked you into it, it made me think about y'all's family and the fact that it was a serial killer movie, obviously, and you either got killed or you were killing somebody. Did this film wind up traumatizing y'all out of anything? I mean, he mentioned about the hitchhiker, that he couldn't pick up anybody for a good long while, but the fact that you mentally have to go and think about how gruesome somebody would get killed, or you would get killed yourself.
You know, for me, it was so much fun to do. It might sound a little weird, but to choreograph that out, and I found out recently the whole thing where after I get hit in the head and I fall over and I'm kicking my feet and everything, 2 or 3 med techs have come up to me and go, you know, if somebody has brain damage, that's really what they do. That's really what they go through.
Oh, you spasm good.
With
You spasm real good.
That's what my first wife said.
She's into chili.
This boy ain't right.
But we love him, Andy.
Yeah.
It's great that y'all get along too.
We do?
All these decades.
We're acting, this is.
Oh, there it is.
The audition.
The neighbors.
Actually, John is really on good behavior, I gotta.
Yeah.
Good drugs.
We're gonna get one question?
Okay, so this is a question for all y'all, but how do y'all feel about how they brought Sally back for like the 2022 Netflix reboot, just to kill her off?
That's it, they didn't treat her right. Yeah, they didn't do right by her.
Yeah, they brought me back too.
They're making another one, I think, to continue that story.
And Gunnar was in that as
I
well.
have no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah.
Yeah, I heard they're making another.
And then when we were at Cinema Wasteland, they did an interview with all of us, and it's called, I think, My Dinner with Leatherface. And I think that's gonna be
That
coming out.
is coming out.
That is, and another is on a festival, will be in a festival, it's directors that have been influenced by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And
So
a lot
that's- it's
more
called Chain
than we ever
Reaction.
knew.
Chain Reaction.
Yeah. I wanted to brag on myself if I could for one second. I was trying to find this email I just got from Ed Neal, who plays the hitchhiker, and his wife. Oh, here it is. And it is in /film.com. The 31 scariest movie scenes ever. Number 16 is the crucifix scene in The Exorcist. And you have the Doom scene in The Exorcist. May remember.
Boy, you
Will
got
remember.
danger right there.
They're 16. But number 6 is my death scene in Texas Chainsaw.
Woo!
You get a
Woo!
price
Woo!
for
Woo!
You are higher than crucifix.
Something to take
Call
home.
your high school counselor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something to tell my mother.
Speaking about mothers, when this movie, I've told this story before, but not to this group. When this movie came out, this is 1974, and my parents were living in Florida, they were retired, which is the law if you're over 75. And they ended up seeing it in a porno theater.
Oh, no!
Double feature,
I love
second
them
feature
already.
was Debbie Does Dialysis. So there you go.
Debbie does.
Recent film.
And in fact,
I think
when I go into the house to get killed, my mother stood up and started screaming in her native language, which was no language. She spoke no language. And at the end, she ended up calling me just to make sure I was still alive.
There you go.
Well, at least that makes you care.
Yeah.
My parents hated it.
Oh, my mother loved it.
Well, my
Really?
mom was okay,
They-
my old man hated it, let's just say that.
On a mother note.
Did he hate the movie or he hate your role?
No, he hated it. Oh,
That's
a little before
that's
this.
it. That's it, guys.
Thank you very much for coming,
Appreciate it.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do it again in another 50 years.
Okay,
Well, that's what you think.
I
All right.
was gonna have you guys sit up front, and if whoever wants to take a photo for everybody real quick. Can you guys
Think
sit up front real
positive.
quick? I'm gonna take a quick shot.
Say what?
I'm gonna take a quick photo. Yeah, real quick, so real quick.
Chairs.